Had a great question from a friend today. How do you get into road cycling? What do you need to get into riding on the road? Great question, and one that I think many are asking during this pandemic. There's been an absolute run on bicycles, which is great. So many more people I see out on the roads, which makes us all safer. So, answering this question, it does depend a little bit on the individual. So the person who asked me, I know, has been a dedicated runner, and so there's a commitment there that I anticipate they will carry into their cycling. So, if it's someone who just wants to try it or might dabble or might do it for a bit and whatever, then honestly, the answer is get on a bicycle, doesn't matter what bicycle, and ride your local multi-use trails and get in the habit of doing it 3 times a week. And that's it. You just need a bicycle. It'll have flat pedals on it, so you just need a bicycle and some running shoes. Uh, just go out and ride. But in this case, I anticipate that this individual is going to be committed to it, wants to go far, get out in the sunshine, and is looking to make an investment in a fitness focus on this. So, in that case, my recommendation actually is going to seem um, a bit, you know, leaning towards the more of an investment commitment side of things, because what I've learned from watching lots of folks get into cycling in the past is that many of us, and I did this same mistake myself, make the error of starting by getting all of the cheapest possible things to get into it, and then having to, a year or two down the line, basically replace everything with the next level of the equipment. And so you end up spending more money in the long run by, trying to go the cheap route at the beginning. Now, again, this is in the case where you're anticipating someone's going to stick with it, then it is worth kind of stepping up one level. The other thing that happens if you go, especially on the bike side, is I see a lot of people burn out on it because they get the cheap bike, they buy the used bike, and then they're so frustrated with crappy gearing, with brakes that don't work well, or with various clicks and squeaks and maintenance issues, that it just puts them off it. And so, you know, by buying that Kijiji $500 old steel bike that doesn't shift right, um, if they had to spend, an extra $1,000, then at least they would be getting their money out of the bike rather than having a $500 bike that they never use. So let's talk about the bike first then. So my recommendation is that you do consider two options really, is either a quality used bike from someone who's like a dedicated, say, racing cyclist, who has an old top end bike that is now well used and that they're moving for a low price because it is old, but that they've taken care of it, that it's got solid um, components on it to begin with, and or go with your entry level road bike at your local bike shop that has, at least a Shimano 105 kind of gearing, or whatever the SRAM. I haven't even kept up whatever the SRAM entry level is. These days, ideally disc brakes if you can get them, just because they just work better and they work better in all weather. Um, but there's lots of, like, every brand has its $1,500 bike. Now they're hard to find right now because everyone wants that, but that's a great place to start. Stay away from the $800 bike with, I don't know, Shimano Sora or Tiagra or whatever that bottom level is. Um, Again, you're not gonna have the performance that's going to keep you happy for a long period of time. But everything from Trek to I don't know, Specialized to I don't know if Garneau is still making entry level road bikes. Giant's got tons of entry level stuff. 1,500 seems like a lot compared to, say, running, when you used to buying like the best shoes you can possibly buy are like $180. But yeah, that at least kind of newish, kind of second tier, I would say, components you're just gonna be happy with it. You're gonna keep using it, and you won't even notice it. And that's the most important thing, right? Like you only notice it when you buy that used bike, and like the back brakes, every time you press them, they rub afterwards. So then you start not using your back brake, and then that's when you go head over heels because you slam your front brakes one time. So yeah, that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid that going too cheap on the bike, that then you just don't stick with the hobby. The second thing then is it may or may not be included with the bike, depending if you're buying something that's used, which is pedals. For pedals, you want the ones that have the special one that you clip into. Now, just to be super confusing, in cycling they call these clipless pedals because there was old-fashioned ones had like this kind of strap thing that you clipped into, and so now the cleat was like clipless, but we talk about pedals you clip into. So if you're buying used, these are going to come with it, and that's great. Just use those most of the time. Worth actually, if you're buying used, asking them to throw in the pedals. And then if you're buying from a bike shop, they'll talk to you about what ones you want. There's two main types. One's kind of like a mountain bike, gravel bike type of cleat. These are easier to get in and out of, a little more practical if you're walking around in your bike shoes a lot, like going into cafes and stuff. So those are probably, if you have the choice, I would go with that, the mountain bike type cleat. Otherwise, the road ones are fine as well. Honestly, cleat type doesn't matter when you're getting into it. And then you're going to need the shoes that have the corresponding cleat that fits with your pedal. So these I wouldn't get too fussed about as long as they fit you well and comfortably. So honestly, the difference between an $80 and a $350 pair of cycling shoes is not going to matter when you're starting, as long as the fit is perfectly comfortable. Width can be a real issue for people with bike shoes getting into it. I've tried every type. I cannot wear Specialized. It's the width it's too narrow for me. So yeah, just make sure you try them and really, really walk around the store in them. Try tightening them up as much as you can, and just see if there are any hot spots, any numbness or anything like that. Because a cycling shoe is a lot stiffer than a running shoe, and so there's a lot less forgiveness if you don't have a real comfortable fit. So you're going to need bike shoes. Doesn't matter the pricing, it just matters that they are comfortable for you and that they can take the right cleat system that works with the pedals that you're getting. Now, I did want to just say about pedals, because the other thing that people think about, well, maybe I'll just start with a flat pedal, your basic bicycle pedal, and I'll just wear my running shoes, and so why would I spend all this money on pedals and shoes off the beginning? Well, it's my same point about getting the gear that's going to keep you happy and comfortable with your bike, because if you're just using flat pedals, you're only cycling with your quads on the downstroke of the pedal, versus on a specialized bicycle pedal, you're getting your full stroke because you're attached to the pedal, and you're going to use your calves, you're going to use hamstrings, and you're just going to be able to ride a lot further, a lot more comfortably, because you're using a lot more different muscles in your legs. So worth that investment again to have a good experience. On that note too, just everyone's a little worried about riding clipped into their pedals at first. That's fine. Everyone worries about that. And so just practice on some grass when you first get your bike. And honestly, like, go over it several times, and you'll get used to it real quick, and it'll be fine. Yeah, you may tip over one time at a stoplight. You're not moving, so it's just embarrassing. Um, just don't reach your hand out when you tip over, because you don't want to. Just tuck and roll. And it happens to all of us, and we get over it, and we don't make that mistake again. But way better for a good cycling experience to have those pedals where you're clipped into the bike. Right, so we've got a bike, we've got pedals and shoes. What else are we wearing apart from our shoes? You want bicycle shorts. So you want the shorts that has the padded chamois in it. Again, far more expensive than a pair of running shorts. However, your comfort on the bike is essential. And yeah, you just can't beat wearing your padded shorts on that bike seat. And don't wear, pro tip for newbies, don't wear underwear underneath that. The system is meant to not have underwear on. Otherwise, you're creating a layer of friction that shouldn't be there. So spring on some bike shorts, and that helmet. Honestly, at the helmet is where you can super cheap out, because everything that more expensive helmets do are weight, venting, and aerodynamics. Three things you're not really going to care about when you're starting up. So on the helmet, honestly, I would ask around the local cycling community and see who's got an extra one lying around, because a lot of time people have upgraded a helmet and then they just never did anything with the old one, because they're not, like, used helmets aren't a huge market for that. So yeah, I mean, ideally you can find someone that just got one lying around. Otherwise, like, any cheapest bike store helmet's gonna protect you. They're all in Canada. They all have to be certified for a certain protection. So you're not getting much difference on protection by spending a lot more money. All right, so we got our helmet, our shorts. Wear whatever you want on top. If you want to buy a fancy bike jersey, that's great. If you just want to wear a dry fit shirt, that works as well. And then you will also want on your bike to be carrying what's called a flat kit. Now, flat kit's going to have a tube for your tire. It's going to have CO2 cartridge for air, and a little adapter to make that CO2 cartridge work on your tube. Now, you might be saying, well, I don't know how to change a tire anyway, so why would I be spending money on a flat kit? Well, that way, when you stand and look forlorn at the side of the road or the pathway, other cyclists coming by who do know how to change a tire can use your tube and your CO2 cartridge to change your tire for you. So get that flat kit, attach it. There's you can buy these with a little bag that goes underneath your seat. So you literally just attach it to your seat, forget about it. Leave it on there forever. It'll be there when you need it, and the rest of the time you can just forget it's attached on there. So seat bag with a flat kit in it. And then the final thing that I would recommend is for your pump for your tires is a floor pump that has a pressure gauge on it. The reason why that's important is that air pressure is one of the biggest mistakes that folks make when they're new to cycling. They don't put enough pressure in, and then when they hit a bump, they pinch the tire and flat it. Or they put too much pressure in, and then they just wonder why cycling is so uncomfortable and why their bike vibrates so hard all the time on bumps. So get the floor pump and just get used to putting in a consistent and a right amount of pressure in your tires before every single ride. And again, this is just, yeah, so a floor pump might cost you $60 or something like that. I don't even know these days. But again, that versus a $20 hand pump where you're just putting a random unknown amount of pressure in, and then you're having problems like flat tires or discomfort and that kind of stuff, it's just worth that extra money. So in summary, we've got a bike with a flat kit on it. Oh, some water bottles. Don't forget some water bottles as well for your bike, to put on your bike. 2 water bottles, just in case you go far. Your shorts, your helmet, your pedals, your shoes, and your pump to get things going. So, yeah, it is. I mean, overall, if you're looking at 1,500, then 100. I mean, you could be looking at 2 grand there to start up. Uh, Whereas you could get into cycling by buying a $300 used bike and just setting out on the paths. Absolutely. The likelihood of continuing on with that crummy bike with discomfort, with no shorts, with flat pedals, with all of that starts to go down precipitously. So, not a cheap sport to get into entirely, but also you don't have to be buying the the Cadillac version of everything to get in. So, yes, that's what I would recommend if you want to get in, and you do anticipate you're going to be consistent and serious with it.